What's up, everybody? Here with another episode of our NFL season preview. We've worked through over half of the league at this point, almost two-thirds of the way through, and we're getting to the teams now that have a high chance of making it to the playoffs. Almost every team we discuss from here on out is going to be a team that has a high likelihood of making it to the playoffs. So with that said, we'll get right into the Minnesota Vikings today, and we're going to discuss the same things like we do in the other episodes. Last season, off-season additions, subtractions, looking at their schedule and projecting what we can expect from this team, MVP candidates, top players at each position, most improved, and drop-off candidates. So we'll get right into it, and we'll start with their last season. By the way, if you like what we're doing here, please hit that like and subscribe button. So last season, they were 8-9. They were the definition of mediocre, and at at any given point last year, they never won or lost two or more games or more than two games in a row. They always either lost two in a row, won two in a row, never more than that. So never a streaky team in one way or the other. Very average. So we'll go into their draft next. With their draft, they traded down. They had the 12th pick, but they traded down all the way down to 32. They traded within their division with the Lions. They gave up on the chance of Kyle Hamilton, a need, and they also let the Lions get Jameson Williams. Kind of an unheard trade scenario. Um, I guess is what the new GM and what the new coach who they brought in, which I should have mentioned with Kevin O'Connell from Los Angeles, but traded all that away to move down to 32 and take Lewis Seen, the safety out of Georgia. He's very versatile. He had 100 snaps at slot cornerback and dozens more at linebacker, along with playing safety, obviously. So they have him. Highlight him there. Scoot this over a little. There we go. So they have him. See if we can shrink this. Yeah, there we go. Gets a little more view. He's an outstanding tackler. Also great in run D. The cons that were on him was the fact that he had somewhat iffy ball skills and his production as far as turnovers. But the other thing is Xavier Woods is out. So, this guy's coming in hoping to start day one. Then in the second round at the 42nd pick, they took Andrew Booth Jr. I cannot find on here. They have him not even starting behind Cameron Dantzler. I believe Andrew Booth's going to be starting from day one. Cornerback out of Clemson. This was probably their biggest need on defense with the cornerback position. He has elite ball skills if you watch him. He used to be a wide receiver, so it kind of plays into the ball skills. And he's great in man. He only fell likely due to his medical concerns. He had the patellar tear, and then he had the core muscle injury that made him fall this far. Then with the 59th pick, their other second-round pick, they took Ed Ingram. I cannot find it. Sorry. Ed Ingram, the interior offensive lineman out of LSU. He can probably play either guard. He was great run blocker in power runs. He's also great in pass protection, and that's likely due to his lateral mobility if you watch any film on him. He could start. He was the highest graded guard in the SEC last year. Then you go to their 66th pick, which was in the third round, and they got Brian Asamoah, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. The Vikings last year had one of the worst run defenses. They gave up 4.7 yards per carry, which was next to last, and almost 131 yards per game, which was good for 26. So not good in the run defense last year. Bring this guy in. Going to get plenty of playing time, I'm sure. Great speed, super long wingspan, which is great because he is great at covering running backs out of the backfield. He only allowed one touchdown when covering out of the backfield in 569 snaps. So great in that regard. Then we look at their free agency. They had a lot of additions this offseason and not many subtractions. Key addition, this guy right here. Zadarius Smith. So they did some interdivisional trading, but then they signed some interdivisional players away from their division rivals in the Green Bay Packers. They got Zadarius Smith. He was injured for a majority of 2021, but the 2 years prior he was a Pro Bowler and had 26 sacks. Great player if he can stay away from the injury bug for sure. You pair him with Danielle Hunter, and this defensive line, Lord Jesus, good luck to opposing offensive linemen. They also brought in Harrison Phillips, who had his best year last year in Buffalo, and he's just 26 years old, so the best is probably yet to come with him. They then extended Kirk Cousins, saying that he's the quarterback of the future. And I mean, people talk about how average he is, but to me, he's underrated. Last year, he just doesn't turn the ball over. Last year, he had 33 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. And being able to hold on to the ball is key and is very major in the NFL today. So then we look at their losses. Like I said, they didn't have many losses on this roster. Xavier Woods is out, which is probably the main reason they drafted Lewis Cine out of Georgia. He ends up in Carolina. He was going through free agency, I believe. They also lost Tyler Conklin, their best tight end. Irv Smith's still there. I mean, Tyler, maybe not best, I shouldn't say that. But they still have Irv Smith, but they do lose some production from the tight end position. And then they lost Dakota Dozier, the guard, which, I mean, they do have Ed Ingram that could come in and step up and take that starting position for sure. So like I said, not many losses. So we'll get into their strengths, and their strengths are very strong. First one is they have a solid roster as is. A lot of teams that I've discussed, they have holes in a lot of areas, but this team has a solid roster. Not amazing, but it is solid. They do have amazing players in certain positions. They're banking on Kevin O'Connell to come in and do things that Mike Zimmer could not do with this roster. I mean, they're banking on him being the problem solver. Is that going to happen? We'll see. I mean, he came from a good system in Los Angeles. Was that him or was that Sean McVay? We'll see with that. Their biggest strength is their wide receiver group. They have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Those two alone, one of the best wide receiver duos in the league for sure. Thielen had the second most red zone receptions over the last 5 years with 33. Ridiculous. Justin Jefferson, 3.3 yards per route run versus press coverage. So if you're going to push up on him, good luck, which is second best since 2020, his rookie year. He's also the highest rated receiver versus press coverage with a 93 PFF grade. So can't press him. Good luck sagging off of him. I mean, just going to eat you alive. And then you have KJ Osborne going into his third year as your third option. So amazing receivers for sure on this team. But I mean, their strength in general is that they have weapons galore. I mean, you add all that with Dalvin Cook. I mean, Madison could probably be a starter a lot of places in this league. And then they got speedsters here with these two running backs. Other strengths, like I said earlier, Zadarius and Danielle Hunter paired with Harrison Phillips and Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, this is an amazing front four and just pass rush in general. Their other strength is, like I spoke about with Kirk Cousins earlier, is their ball control. He only had 7 interceptions, and they only had 14 turnovers as a team last year. One of the best teams with ball control in the league, for sure. So then we get into their weaknesses. And if anything could hold them back, it could be these few things that I discuss here. First off, I mean, another weakness is still the offensive line. It's been a weakness for this team probably for the last decade now. They finished 27th last year per PFF pass block grade. So in the bottom 4th of the league in pass block, which is great, showing how great Kirk Cousins is if he's not turning over the ball. May take a sack, but it's better than turning it over for sure. One key thing is they got to hope that Christian Darrisaw steps up for sure this year. Another weakness is their back seven altogether. They're average at best, I would say, but I mean, it's still something that's going to be the limiting factor for this team to take that next step and get into the playoffs and make a run in the playoffs. They made a few additions, especially through the draft with Booth Jr. and Lewis Cine, but they need the defense to improve in the back seven for sure. Hoping Asamoah can come in, but we're sitting here talking about 3 rookies that they're hoping can contribute day one. Not ideal situation, but I mean, with this front four, it'll take some pressure off of this back seven. They were 30th in offensive yards allowed per game at 383, and they allowed over 25 points per game, so not ideal for sure. And the other weakness last year, and this is where another place where they're hoping Kevin O'Connell can come in and set the tone for this team, is discipline. They had the 3rd most penalty yards last year per game, over 61 yards per game. So discipline's a key thing for them. So I mean, I kind of already hit on the outlook on both sides of the ball. I mean, this offense, no worries outside the offensive line, but I mean, it's still not a huge thing. This team's going to put up points, or they should, I should say. Defense, front four is going to look good. It's just a lot of their season is going to depend on that back seven of this defense to take them to the playoffs and further into into the season, into the postseason, I should say. So we get into their projected wins. Vegas has them at 9 wins, and we'll look at their schedule real quick. So we'll run through, discuss each week real quickly. Week 1, they play the Packers. I mean, Packers are possibly NFC favorites to get to the Super Bowl, so we don't have to discuss much there. Still a gap between the two. They then play the Eagles on Monday Night Football in Week 2. And, I mean, the Eagles are much improved, but the Vikings, I feel like they're the team that's ahead of them. The Eagles still have more to prove and have more of a unsure thing at quarterback for sure. Give the Vikings the win there. Week 3, they play the Lions at home. The Lions hype train is going crazy, but they're not going to win a ton of games. I heard today that they had the most money put on over 6 wins on any team in NFL so far this season. So everybody's betting them like crazy. Week 4, they go to London and play the Saints. All these London games or overseas games are always a toss-up to me. The Saints D, I feel like it's going to pose a problem here, so we'll give them the loss. 2-2 going into Week 5. Sorry. They play Justin Fields. Luckily, in their division, they have 2 of the lower tier teams in the Lions and the Bears. Justin Fields, good luck to him and his lack of weapons. If you've seen any of the other videos, we've discussed his weapons ad nauseum. A win there. Week 6, they play the Dolphins. 2 teams on the come up. I think the Dolphins can get the win here, so we're at 3-3, looking mediocre per norm when we get to the bye Week 7. Week 8, they play the Cardinals. Again, I mean, I feel like they just got to flip the switch on a lot of these games that I feel could be toss-ups that I'm giving to the other team, but they could easily win these games themselves. Give them the loss 3-4. Week 9, they play the Commanders. Carson Wentz may not even be the starter at this point. Another thing is that the Commanders were 29th versus the pass last year. Kirk Cousins and these receivers are going to eat them alive. Win there, 4-4 at 500. Then play the Bills. Don't need to discuss the Bills, Super Bowl favorites. Just give them a loss. Cowboys. They led the league in turnovers created last year. Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, great. But turnovers are a luck thing a lot of the times. I feel like they regress on defense. They were 20th versus the pass last year, and same thing like the Commanders. They're not going to be able to keep up with them, especially with Justin Jefferson and the crew. Patriots on Thanksgiving. Mac Jones is going to struggle. This front four is probably going to have him running for his life. I mean, he doesn't have an offensive coordinator even named yet, so I don't feel good about the Patriots. So, hey, we're above 500 right now. We're finally at 6-5, going into Week 13 and get an easy stretch of the schedule. They play the Jets. Zach Wilson has improved, but not enough to compete with them. They then play the Lions, who were 28th versus the run last year. So even though his offensive line may not be great, Dalvin Cook may go off on them. Another win, 4 in a row. They then play the Colts. What worries me here is that Jonathan Taylor may run all over them. Their linebacking core is not great. Kind of gives me worry here. So we'll give them the loss here against the Colts. They play the Giants in Week 16. Giants are improved, but not enough to compete with the Vikings for sure. So at this point, we're at 3-4, 8, 9, and 6. 9-5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 9-6. 9-6 going into the last 2 weeks of the season. Unfortunately, play the Packers. We've discussed the Packers already. And then we've also already discussed the Bears. Unless the Bears surprise everyone, Vikings get the win here. So we have them going 10-7. I mean, improvement from last year and definitely playing for that wild card position. But there's the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Colts. That's 3 games that are toss-ups to me that the Vikings could easily win, and that could flip their season around. Dolphins too. So they could definitely do much better in 10-7, but that's where I have them right now. So above the Vegas prediction. So with every other video, I go with the top players in each position who could be a top 5, top 10 player at their respective position. Top 5, easily Justin Jefferson. I mean, this guy might be the best receiver in the NFL by the end of the season. Uh, they had him fifth best under 25 per PFF, which I thought was low. But yeah, easily top five. Dalvin could also be a top five running back, no doubt. Top 10, Harrison Smith at safety position. You know, he's going to kind of anchor this back seven and try to project them to be above average this year. Zadarius Smith, Daniil Hunter, and Kirk Cousins all could be top 10 people. MVP candidates, although very unlikely. If Justin Jefferson puts himself in that number one wide receiver discussion, and this team makes the playoffs for one, and if they somehow win the division, if Green Bay can't produce, especially on offense, you might be talking about Justin Jefferson being an MVP candidate. Wouldn't surprise. I mean, well, I guess it would surprise me. It would surprise a lot of people. Defensively, probably not MVP candidates, but they do have great players in Zadarius and Daniil Hunter. Okay, sorry. MVP candidates. And then most improved on this team, to me, I think it's going to be Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle for them. Solid last year. Had almost a 72 PFF grade. He's in his second year with a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. He needs to take a huge step if this team's going to succeed. It's the offensive line and the linebacking core that's holding this team back from taking that next step, I do believe. So he's my most improved candidate. Best and worst outcomes is if those things that are question marks right now, if they hit, this team could be, it's hard for me to say, but they could be pushing the Packers for the division title if they play their cards right. Worst thing is that this defense is still struggling to hold teams. They still are that mediocre, can't get over the hump, still have that average quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and they have another 8-9, 9-8 season that's gone to waste. Drop-off candidate for me, I usually have a hard time picking this, but with this team, I feel like it's Patrick Peterson. Can't even highlight him. Patrick Peterson. He ranked 57th last year amongst cornerbacks, and he's only getting older. I feel like he's just going to continue to regress, and these other rookies are going to step up in his spot, and maybe he can take more of the mentor role. And then ending this video with the most intriguing thing to me. Most intriguing to me is, can Kevin O'Connell really improve upon what Mike Zimmer couldn't? Did Mike Zimmer was he the problem? I mean, it seemed to be a talking point for a lot of people over the last 2 years, I should say, with the Vikings. Can Kevin O'Connell get them to that next step? Make the playoffs, maybe push the Packers. If he can push the Packers, coach of the year. And can Zadarius and Daniil be a top 5 duo, pass rush duo, which could take a lot of pressure off of the back seven of this team and project this team to more wins? So that's it. We went through the Minnesota Vikings rather quickly. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit that like button. Comment on it. Please tell me what you agree with, what you don't agree with. I love to discuss it. And until we get into the next one, please hit that subscribe button. And until then, peace.